Okay, so now that we've seen a lot of the lows continuing in the United States as the election is upcoming, let's take a second to mention up here in Canada that we're also dealing with our own lows and just the most just absolute absurdity of our own government here. As the CBC is pointing out, the RCMP is planning to conduct undercover surveillance online using fake personas to investigate ideological extremists in Canada, says an internal strategy document. I think the most funniest part is the fact that they say they're planning. Because I feel like this article is going to be like, surprise, it's already happening. We're planning to tell you. That's the planning part of it. It was actually, we did this the whole time. So the article says the RCMP is planning to conduct undercover surveillance online using fake personas to investigate ideological extremists in Canada, says an internal strategy document. Experts in the ideological motivated violent extremism, IMVE, in Canada say the strategy is overdue at a time when online extremism threats to spill over into real-world violence. They warned that extremist activity in Canada could increase in the wake of the U.S. election, regardless of who becomes the next president. Civil liberties advocates say they fear that having officers carry out undercover investigations online using fake personas could violate charter rights or lead people into take actions like otherwise might not take. They point out that the RCMP ran afoul of Canada's privacy commissioner earlier this year with other online investigation activities. They're also calling for guardrails to uncover online surveillance. The internal strategy document dated April 2024 was obtained through the Access to Information Law by Matt Malone, Basile scholar at the Basile School of Internal Affairs, and shared with CBC News. The term IMVE can cover anything from white supremacists and neo-Nazis to far-left environmental and animal rights organizations. While much of the internal document discusses the need for police forces to work together to counter threats to national security, it also outlines the RCMP's plans to take its investigations beyond simply watching what is posted online. The RCMP's lack of covert online presence was previously highlighted in the OIR Operation Improvement Review, which recommended that the RCMP developed its own online undercover program to assist with national security criminal investigations, says the online strategy document. Federal Policing National Security is currently taking steps to address this recommendation through proactively legend building and backstopping personas, but this work needs to be prioritized and accelerated in order to meet future demand for online undercover activities. The force will also have to add resources, it said. Should federal policing expand its online undercover intelligence capabilities in the IMVE space, there will be a need for additional online personas, monikers, and information technology equipment to sustain these activities. It is not clear how much progress the RCMP has made with its online undercover program since the strategy was written in April, or whether officers using fake identities are conducting undercover online investigations. Asked about the status of the program, RCMP officials were tight-lipped. The RCMP uses various technical investigation tools and methods to lawfully obtain evidence in order to protect Canadians and advance serious criminal investigations. The RCMP said in an email response, "To maintain the integrity of our operations, we generally do not disclose specific techniques or tools used in the course of the investigation and will not conduct further on the status of these techniques." The force also defended its use of the undercover operations. Then it states also, all undercover operations are unique and assessed independently, subject to extensive planning, review, monitoring, and approved processes. Any and the use of any investigation tools by the RCMP is governed by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and subject to appropriate judicial processes if applicable, says the email. Undercover police investigations, among many tools, remain an effective technique to thwart the commission of serious crime and resolve historic offenses. The focus is on uncovering the truth, verifying facts, and determining if someone is involved. Again, the most funniest part is the fact they say they're planning this. Like, this is something that I no doubt has been going on for at least over a decade now. No doubtably that there be fake accounts. No doubtably. Because this goes on periodically outside the RCMP. The CSIS intelligence board, I'm sure they have fake accounts on social media channels that are trying to implement certain things or trying to propagandize people or try to sway people into a certain direction. We know what happens in the United States. We know what happens in the UK with MI6. We know what happens in Australia. So, no doubtably, it would happen to a place like here. And the fact that they're saying, well, we're planning on going undercover to stop crime. That's what they're trying to say. It's trying to stop crime before the crime is committed. They're trying to minority report this, even though it has been proven that the RCMP has used this unlawfully against civilians to counteract Canada's own interest, to do this for the whims of the establishment, to do this for the whims of the corrupted lobby firms that aid the RCMP by doing this. So I also just wanted to show this because this kind of ties into it. It says a great clip showing the reality of the Freedom Convoy versus how the media brought people into the spin of the narrative that never existed. CBC should be ashamed of themselves, and there's no doubt our government asked them to disparage it as often as possible. And this is what the RCMP, coordinate with the CBC, coordinate with CBC, this is what they were trying to do. Trying to coordinate to say that ordinary Canadians are the most awful, disparaging people that ever existed, while making a non-existent narrative of doing that. Listen to this.
There's been plenty of accounts of how our residents have been subject to racism and sexism and misogyny and just the most boorish and ugly, hateful behavior that one could ever expect. And, it has increased. But, David, what has
hateful behavior?
Really?
Hateful behavior, as they just showed you B-roll coverage of a bouncy house, people dancing on the street, and a hockey tournament that just broke out. Hateful behavior, racism, misogyny. Wow. And mind you, these are the same RCMP officers that cracked the heads of these people, that also capitulated into lying to the general public, saying that these people are deemed extremists. And this is kind of the behavior. This is why they're implementing all this. This is why they now have to come clean in the fact that, hey, we're monitoring certain channels of people that may be talking to each other about coordinating in the same way they did with the Freedom Convoy. Peaceful rally about stopping a tyrannical governmental mandate.
Clear to me through all of this is it's not a target on the city of Ottawa. It's much bigger than that. It's really an insurrection. It's an attack on our democracy. It's an attack on our federal government. It has a lot of international elements to it. The money is flowing.
Attack on the federal government. It's an insurrection. Really, because I didn't see a single person entering Parliament. They didn't mention anybody breaking in to even the grounds of the Parliament building. They were outside the fence line, outside on the streets of Ottawa. They didn't even mention to barge into Parliament building to harass politicians. None of that ever happened. But they want to refer to it as an insurrection, as January 6th was. Yeah, this is a terrifying act to watch people playing ice hockey on the streets. The real extremists are the people that enjoy each other's company. The real extremists are people with joy and happiness inside them. According to this lady.
In the U.S. This is right out of the Trump playbook, and I don't think anyone really imagined that was what it was when it started.
So that's incredible. That's incredible. And again, that's the same RCMP. That's the same article being written about this. So this is just so crazy. It's so crazy that now they're revealing that, oh, by the way, the RCMP is making fake accounts to try to stop this extremist. The same extremists that you just saw on screen there of bouncy castles and hugging each other. God forbid we love one another. That's the most awful thing you can do. That's Canadian. So here's even this. This is Marie Oakes pointing this out. Police drag away a Freedom Convoy protester and proceed to beat the individual. This is back in 2022. Remember this. Keep your eye on the scene of the person dragged off in the background and is repeatedly hit with what looks like a gun. This is what the RCMP did. So them to say that they're combating extremism online by making fake accounts to sway people, to swindle people, knowing that this is what they did out in the open is absolutely disturbing. It's not helpful. It's disturbing. The fact the RCMP is doing this in violation of a lot of different rights. And just to remind people about this, I can't play the audio because of copyright, but just remind people, those are cops. Look at that. Smacking around people. That's looks like indigenous fellow right there. They're cracking the heads of these people. They're attacking them. Look at them. Beating them with their own gun. And these are the same individuals that openly state that now they're creating fake personas to help Canadians deal with extremism, deal with hateful ideology. The same hateful ideology that they said about the Freedom Convoy, where it was a bunch of families gathering together on a bouncy castle, when they were feeding people food, when they were celebrating one another, when they were dancing on the street, when they were singing "Oh Canada." You know, that hateful rhetoric that you would see probably at any street carnival. That hateful, bigoted, racist ideologue that probably came from Russia or Trump. I don't even know where it came from. I just want to say those two because that's just how I feel about it. Urgh. I just want to stop the insanity that's going to ruin my insanity. The same RCMP that's capable of this, that's now doing online persona, that is dangerous, folks. That's not something to be proud of. That's something to be alarmed, mindful, and disgusted by. And the fact that this is somehow going to stop crime. This is somehow going to stop the extremist behavior, even though we don't have a clear explanation of what real endangerment behavior really is. Because these are people that organized together, all walks of life, all different Canadians gathered together to stop a tyrannical mandate that was more harmful to ordinary citizens than this. I would call out the Justin Trudeau and Theresa Tam and Chrystia Freeland for their extremist rhetoric. The fact that they closed down bank accounts for anyone that participated, even if you weren't even there. If you supported it, if you went to GoFundMe and contributed to their campaign, you'd be subjugated to having your bank account locked up. That's what they did. Those same people are now going to make fake personas that no doubtly has already happened. So the fact they're saying they're planning on it is just absolutely stupid. They must think that we're that retarded. And yes, I'm using that term clinically. But to make fake personas, to say they're going to stop extremism when the extremism they're pointing out is people unifying together based on common consensus to actually make things better for the common good of Canada. If that's the extremists that they're trying to stop, then the RCMP are the extremists. Then the people in government are the extremists. Because they're the ones that want to further the divide. They're the ones that want more hate in the streets. They're the ones that epitomize people on every which direction. Instead of showcasing how everybody can gather together, all walks of life. We can put our differences aside on the coldest nights in Ottawa when it comes to something that affects everybody. Imagine if we did the exact same thing, focused on the economy, focused on good paying jobs, focused on the border issues. Imagine how much unification, how much we can actually coalesce together if we aren't epitomized by the real extremists that work inside the federal government, that continuously divide this country for their own whims, for their own gains. That's what this should be really about.